We usually view ancient Greece as the origin point for democracy and the arts, a landscape of white marble where the modern world was born. Between the 8th and 6th centuries BC, the Greek world underwent a structural transformation. Rural settlements merged into the polis, and early reformers like Solon and Cleisthenes drafted the first laws giving citizens a role in government. Trade followed this political shift. By the 6th century, the silver Athenian owl became a standard unit of exchange, allowing merchants to move wealth across the Mediterranean with a new level of efficiency. This growth in political voice and economic power was strictly limited. The very systems that defined citizen rights simultaneously codified who was to be excluded. Understanding the mechanics of these city-states requires looking past the monuments to the social layers that kept them running. This era of advancement functioned through a tier of privilege reserved for a minority of the population. Greek culture frequently centered on powerful female figures in its mythology. Athena, the patron of Athens, was worshipped as the goddess of wisdom and strategic war. Mortal women lived in a different reality. In democratic Athens, they possessed no political rights. They were barred from voting, from the public assembly, and from holding any office. The law restricted their personal independence entirely. A woman could not inherit her father's estate and remained under the control of a kyrios, a male guardian who managed her property and legal affairs. Society confined them to the home. Their primary value was tied to child-rearing and indoor manual labor, such as the weaving and wool work depicted on surviving pottery. Sparta operated on a different model. Their women could own land and received rigorous physical training to ensure they could protect the state while the men were at war. Within the democratic city-states, the legal definition of a citizen was a male-only category, while women were described in historical texts primarily as beings for birth. The philosophical and political leisure of the citizen class was sustained by a foundation of intense manual labor. Athenian wealth was built on the extraction of silver from the Laurion mines. This operation relied on the labor of thousands of enslaved people, working in narrow, subterranean shafts to fund the city's navy and its architecture. This data shows a widening economic gap. While elite estates increased, the average house size stalled at 45 square meters. The Thetes, the poorest citizen class, remained trapped at the bottom of this graph, legally barred from holding high political office without property. The cultural and intellectual output of the classical era was possible because a specific labor system transferred wealth from the many to a learned few. These independent city-states eventually faced a power they could not counter, a centralized professional military. Philip II of Macedonia utilized a professionalized army to dismantle the autonomy of the Greek states. At the Battle of Chaeronea in 338 BC, he defeated the coalition led by Athens and Thebes, ending the era of the independent polis. His son, Alexander the Great, secured his own throne through the swift execution of perceived rivals. While he is often credited with spreading Greek civilization, his authority was maintained through military force. When Thebes attempted to reclaim its independence, Alexander's troops destroyed the city, killing 6,000 people and selling the survivors into slavery, to ensure the rest of Greece remained compliant. The expansion of Greek culture across Asia was driven by an imperial campaign that permanently replaced the local democratic experiments with autocratic rule. The Macedonian Empire rapidly overtook territory from Egypt to India. The Greek world was no longer small, debating cities, but a singular, sprawling monarchy. The civilization that codified the frameworks for individual representation also refined the methods for systemic exclusion. It is difficult to separate the logic of Greek philosophy from the labor of the Laurion mines or the massacre at Thebes. The legacy of ancient Greece is defined by this duality. The same society that established the value of the citizen's voice built its stability on the total silence of everyone else.